The jet screamed as I brought it down onto the runway, the F-22 rattling from the strain of its final maneuvers. My helmet pressed heavy against my skull, sweat dripping down my temples even in the cooled cockpit. Another classified strike, another mission I couldn't talk about. Just a line in a logbook and a knot in my chest that would sit there for years. As the wheels screeched and the jet slowed, I exhaled a long, ragged breath. 3 days. 3 days until I was supposed to marry Shiloh Henson. That thought was the only thing that kept me steady up there, that when I landed she'd be waiting. My fiancée. My future. The woman I thought I'd be building my life with. Ground crew swarmed, but my eyes were on the horizon, scanning for her car. I half expected her to be there, waiting, smiling. She wasn't. That wasn't unusual though. Shiloh hated the base, hated the dust, hated the smell of jet fuel. "You always come back to me," she'd said once. Why would I wait by the runway? I climbed out, yanking off my helmet. The sun hit me like a punch. Captain Jace Monroe, Air Force hotshot, but beneath the swagger and the call sign, just a man looking for a soft place to land. Kyler Fox, my wingman, slapped me on the back. "Hell of a strike, Monroe. You're still the best in the air." "Damn right," I smirked, though it felt hollow. "Beer later?" "Wouldn't miss it," he grinned before heading off with the rest of the crew. I grabbed my duffel and headed for my car, planning to drive straight to Shiloh's. 3 days until the wedding, and I wanted nothing more than to fall into her arms. Instead, I got a text from Fiona Henson. "Jace, Reed and I would like you to join us at the estate this afternoon. Urgent. Come alone." My gut tightened. Fiona never texted me directly. Hell, Fiona barely spoke to me at all unless it was a social function where she could smile through her teeth and remind everyone her daughter was marrying a decorated pilot. Still, I drove there. The Henson estate was a fortress of wealth. Marble pillars, a driveway big enough to land a helicopter on, the kind of manicured hedges that made you feel poor just by looking at them. Their housekeeper let me in, directing me not to the sitting room, not to the sunroom, but to Reed's private study. My alarm should have gone off right then. Reed Henson stood by the window, suit perfectly pressed, glass of whiskey in hand. Though it wasn't even 2 p.m., Fiona sat primly at the desk, a Mont Blanc pen already resting on a folder in front of her. They looked less like parents welcoming their future son-in-law, more like CEOs about to negotiate a hostile takeover. "Captain Monroe," Reed said, voice flat as a judge's gavel. "Sit." I dropped my duffel and sat, still in my flight suit, sweat staining the collar. Fiona smiled, the kind of smile that could slice you open. "We'll keep this brief, Jace. You're marrying our daughter in 3 days. But before that happens, we need assurances." Reed slid the folder across the desk. Blue cover, thick stack of papers. My stomach dropped. I knew what this was before I even opened it. "A prenuptial agreement," Reed said. "Standard for anyone entering this family. Sign today and the wedding proceeds without issue. Refuse, and the wedding is off." I flipped it open. My eyes scanned the clauses, each one a punch to the gut. In the event of divorce, I'd walk away with nothing. No marital property, no rights to shared assets, and worst of all, a clause about intellectual property that would have gutted my aerospace startup if it ever took off big. I let out a bitter laugh. "You've got to be fucking kidding me." Fiona tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Language, Captain. This is simply protection of family wealth." "Family wealth?" I spat, tossing the folder back. "You make it sound like Shiloh's marrying down into the gutter. I've served my country for over a decade. I've bled for it. And this is what I get? A goddamn ultimatum?" Reed didn't flinch. "This isn't personal, Monroe. It's business. We've built a legacy and we won't risk it on a marriage that may not last." I stared at them, jaw tight. "Does Shiloh know about this?" "Of course," Fiona said smoothly. "She understands family obligations. She knew we'd handle it." That stung worse than the contract itself. Shiloh, the woman I was supposed to trust with my life, knew about this and let me walk blind into their trap. Reed leaned forward, voice cold. "You have until tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sign it, or the wedding is cancelled." Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Then Fiona leaned back, that smug little smile playing on her lips. "We know you'll make the sensible choice. After all, where else would you find someone like Shiloh?" My blood boiled. I stood, snatched the folder off the desk. "You're right about one thing, Mrs. Henson. I will make the sensible choice." And I walked out before I put my fist through Reed Henson's perfect mahogany desk. I made it halfway down the Henson driveway before I called her. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey babe. Are you? Did you know?" My voice came out low and steady, the kind of tone that scares people more than shouting. A beat. Then lighter, too casual. "Know what? Don't do that." I pulled the car to the curb beneath a line of sycamores. "Your parents just shoved a prenup at me and said sign it by 9 a.m. or the wedding's off." Silence. 1 second. 2. 3. She exhaled. "Jace, I was going to bring it up tonight." "Were you going to bring it up with the part where they threatened to cancel the wedding? Or the part where they tried to claim my intellectual property if I invent something during the marriage?" "That's not." "You're exaggerating." "Am I?" I flipped the first page. Section 8, paragraph 2. The IP clause. "You're an art consultant, Shiloh. Words are your business. You want me to read it to you? Don't be a jerk. I'm not the one who ambushed my fiancée like a hostile witness." She went quiet again. When she spoke, her voice was smaller. "Can you just come over?" I stared at the mansion behind me, all the marble and glass and money that thinks it can buy gravity. "Fine. 10 minutes. Her condo smelled like eucalyptus and lemon cleaner, the kind of place that never looks lived in because someone else is paid to erase the living. Shiloh opened the door in a silk blouse and bare feet, hair twisted up like she was headed to a magazine shoot instead of a conversation that might end our engagement. She reached for me automatically. I took a step back. Her hands hung there, fingers curling in on themselves. "You're really pissed." "I'm really blindsided." She shut the door softly and leaned against it. "I didn't want it to be like this. But here we are," I said. "Say the quiet part out loud. Did you know about the ultimatum?" "I knew they wanted a prenup." "Did you know about the ultimatum?" She flinched. "They didn't tell me the exact timing." "That's not an answer." Her jaw set. "Yes. I knew they'd insist on you signing before the wedding." I laughed once, sharp. "Great. So you sent me to your parents' study like a damn errand boy." "I didn't send you." "Your mom texted from your phone?" "Jace." She rubbed her temple. "My parents are intense. This is normal in my world. Everyone signs." "I'm not everyone. And this doesn't read like normal. It reads like a mugging. It protects what they've built. And strips me of what I've built." I held the folder up between us. "I've spent years learning to fly a machine that turns air into teeth. I've kept people alive because I was the guy who didn't panic. I'm not signing something written to punish me for not being born on your side of the golf course." Her eyes flashed. "Don't make this about class. It's about prudence. It's about control." I stepped closer, lowered my voice. "Tell me you read it." I skimmed. "Of course you did." She straightened. "Don't talk to me like I'm stupid. I'm talking to you like I'm done being handled." I dropped the folder on her marble island. It thudded like a verdict. "Here's what's going to happen. You call your parents. You tell them the ultimatum is off the table. You tell them we'll have my lawyer review and we'll negotiate a fair agreement after the wedding." Her mouth fell open. "After the wedding? That's insane." "What's insane is cornering your fiancé 3 days out and trying to make him sign away his spine." She folded her arms. "You're overreacting." "Say that again," I said softly, "like you believe it." We stared at each other, the air buzzing with all the words we hadn't said for a year. Shiloh looked away first. "My family does things a certain way," she said finally. "There are expectations. If you want to be part of it, I'm not auditioning for your last name. You're marrying me, Jace. Not them." "Then why do they get to set the rules?" She opened and closed her hands like she wanted to grip something that wasn't there. "Because they can. Because it's easier. Because fighting them costs." "Yeah," I said. "I know what fighting costs." Her eyes flicked to the flight patch on my chest. "That's not what I meant. Maybe you should decide what you do mean." I pushed the folder toward her. "Read the clause about my work. If you think that's prudence, we're not on the same planet." She didn't touch it. "Are you seriously threatening to cancel the wedding over paperwork? Are you seriously willing to cancel it to protect your parents' feelings?" She looked angry now. "Don't put this on me. You let them do your dirty work." "My dirty work? God, you're dramatic." I barked a laugh. "That's rich coming from a woman who stages charity galas like Battlefield Theater." She took a step forward, voice rising. "I'm trying to keep peace. You're trying to pick a fight. I'm trying to pick myself." I tapped the folder. "Call them." "No." It was quiet enough to hear the AC hum. "No." I repeated. "I'm not calling them to give them ultimatums. I'm not putting gasoline on a fire 2 days before we say, I do." "So you want me to eat the flames and smile? I want you to be reasonable." "Reasonable? I said, testing the word like a bad grape. Reasonable is me not telling Reed to shove this stack where sunlight goes to die. Reasonable is me asking you to stand with me. But if you won't. She lifted her chin. What? You'll walk. If I have to. She swallowed. You don't mean that. I held her gaze. You sure? Something cracked behind her eyes. You love me. Enough to want a marriage, not a merger. She looked at the floor. When she spoke again, her voice was small and mean at once. My mother thinks you're using me. I let that sit there. And what do you think? I think, you don't understand families like mine. There it is, I said, a cold calm settling in. The sentence you've been holding since the night we met. Her head snapped up. Don't twist me into your enemy. You did that when you chose avoidance over honesty. I picked up the folder. Last chance. Call them and kill the ultimatum. She stared. Said nothing. Okay, I said. Then here's my ultimatum. We do this on equal footing or we don't do it at all. Jace. I turned for the door. Where are you going? Panic crept into her voice. To think. To talk to someone who doesn't treat me like a volunteer at your family museum. Don't be cruel. Cruel is pretending to love me while handing me a leash. She flinched like I'd hit her. For a second I wanted to take it back. Then I remembered Reed's dead eyes and Fiona's smile like a guillotine. I'll call you tomorrow, I said. Don't you dare walk out, she snapped. If you leave, maybe you should just say it. Stay gone. We stood inside that last line together, neither of us crossing it. I opened the door. Jace, she said softer. Please. Don't make me choose. That's the point, Shiloh. I glanced back. You already did. The hallway outside felt like a different season. Cooler, quieter, honest. The elevator doors closed on her face. Beautiful, furious, afraid. And I leaned my head against the mirrored wall while the car hummed down. My phone buzzed. Kyler Fox, you alive, hotshot? Beers? I typed, yeah. Need noise. Another buzz almost instantly. Paige, you landed? Call me the second you can. I stared at both texts, the two halves of my life asking for the truth. I called my sister first. She answered on the first half ring. Jace? Hey. You sound like you ate glass. Shiloh's parents pulled a fast one, I said. Threw a prenup at me. Signed by 9 or weddings off. Paige went quiet just long enough for me to know she was counting to 5 so she didn't scream. Those pretentious fossils. I smiled despite the ache. Colorful. What did Shiloh say? She knew. Paige hissed. I'm going to drive to their mausoleum, ring the bell, and ask if they accept returns on daughters. Tempting, I said. I told her to call them and kill the ultimatum. She wouldn't. Then you walk. I'm not ready to say that out loud. She softened. Then say this out loud, you're Jace Monroe. You don't kneel to cash. I know. You want me to fly out? Not yet. I looked through the lobby glass at the city, lights blinking into life like stubborn stars. I'm going to meet Kyler. I need to burn off the everything. Drink water between beers, Paige said. And for God's sake, don't sleep with a mistake. I almost laughed. Copy. I love you, she said. They don't get to define you. Love you too. I hung up and texted Kyler. Black flag. 30 minutes. He sent back a skull emoji and a shot of a pint already sweating on the table. I slid the prenup back into the folder and tucked it under my arm like a live grenade. As I stepped into the night, the city wind hit the sweat at my collar and I felt something hard settle in my chest. Not anger exactly, aim. If they wanted a war, I'd give them one they didn't see coming. And I'd fight like hell to remember who I was while I did it. The Black Flag was a pilot's kind of bar. Dim lights, sticky floors, walls plastered with patches from squadrons that had flown and bled from Korea to Kandahar. The jukebox never shut up, the pool tables leaned just enough to make you swear someone hustled you, and the beer was cold enough to make a man forget his own name. Kyler Fox was already 3 pints deep when I slid onto the stool across from him. His blonde hair was a mess, his laugh loud enough to make the bartender glare. He shoved a fresh pint toward me. Hot shot, he yelled over the music. I thought you'd show up wearing your damn flight suit and that look you get when command chews your ass. I raised the glass and took a long pull. Close enough. He squinted at me. You look like somebody pissed in your oxygen mask. What happened? Shiloh find out you snore? I barked a laugh, humorless. Her parents handed me a prenup today. Sign it or the wedding's off. Kyler choked on his beer. What the actual fuck? Yeah. I dropped the folder onto the table between us. It landed with a slap. They didn't even sugarcoat it. Just shoved it across the desk and said 9 a.m. deadline. He flipped it open, skimmed the first page, whistled low. Jesus Christ, this isn't a prenup, this is indentured servitude. They want everything, even your brain if you sneeze a new idea. Exactly. And Shiloh? She knew. Kyler sat back, shaking his head. Bro, that's ice cold. I rubbed my face with both hands. Tell me about it. We drank in silence for a minute. The jukebox flipped to some old Skinner track. My chest felt like a pressure cabin ready to pop. Kyler finally leaned forward. You gonna sign it? No. Then what? I don't know. Bullshit. He jabbed a finger at me. You always know. You plan every dogfight 3 moves ahead. Don't give me this lost puppy routine. I slammed my glass down harder than I meant to. It's different when it's her. That shut him up for a beat. Then he nodded slow. Yeah. Love makes even aces fly blind. The bartender brought another round without asking. I drank half of it in one go. My vision blurred at the edges, not from the alcohol but from the knot in my chest finally loosening. That's when I saw her. Bethany Costa. She was at the far end of the bar, hair loose around her shoulders, black leather jacket over a simple dress, sipping bourbon like she'd been born with it. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't trying. And yet every head turned when she walked by. I knew her face. Defense analyst. I'd seen her once at a gala where I was paraded around like a recruiting poster. Back then, she'd given me a smile that wasn't the practiced, thank you for your service bullshit. It was curious, sharp, like she wanted to know the man under the uniform. And now she was here. Kyler followed my gaze. His eyebrows shot up. Well damn. Costa. What's she doing slumming it at Black Flag? Maybe she likes watered-down beer and bad pool tables. Or maybe, Kyler grinned, she's waiting for you to quit sulking and say hi. Not tonight, I muttered. Exactly tonight. He shoved me. Go. You need a distraction before you punch a hole in this wall with Reed Henson's face in your head. I stared into my glass, then back at her. Something in me cracked. Maybe it was the betrayal. Maybe it was the whiskey. Maybe it was the fact that the woman I was supposed to marry had just proven she'd rather keep peace with her parents than stand beside me. I stood. Bethany noticed me before I even got there. Captain Monroe, she said, voice smooth as smoke. Didn't think you remembered me. Her lips curved. Hard to forget a man who walked into a room like he owned the air around him. I huffed a laugh, leaning against the bar. Tonight I just own this pint. She raised her glass. Then here's to ownership. We clinked. Minutes blurred into hours. We talked, really talked, about deployments, about policy, about how people like Reed Henson thought they ran the world while people like me kept it from burning. She listened. Not politely. Not like she was waiting to speak. She listened. And I hadn't realized how starved I was for that until the words poured out of me. At one point, she touched my wrist when I said something about the prenup, just a brush of her fingers. The room tilted. Jace, she said quietly, you deserve better than a woman who lets her parents treat you like property. I stared at her, throat tight. And then I kissed her. It wasn't planned. It wasn't noble. It was raw, desperate, 2 broken edges sparking together. She kissed me back. The rest of the night blurred, neon lights, the slam of a cab door, her laugh against my shoulder, her apartment door clicking shut behind us. I should have stopped. God knows I should have stopped. But I didn't. And when the sun cut across her sheets the next morning, I lay there staring at the ceiling, guilt clawing at me. I had a fiancée. A wedding in 3 days. And now I had this. Bethany stirred beside me, eyes half-lidded, hair a mess, still looking like she belonged in a world I'd never been allowed into. She whispered, what happens now? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. The sunlight in Bethany's apartment cut sharper than any hangover. My head throbbed, but it wasn't from the whiskey. It was the guilt. The taste of betrayal in my mouth, thicker than the bourbon we'd drowned in. Bethany rolled over, hair spilling across the pillow, her hand brushing my chest like we'd been lovers forever instead of strangers crashing together in one night. She whispered, voice still hoarse from sleep, you're leaving already? I have to. My words were flat, like they weren't even mine. Her eyes opened fully now, dark and sharp. She doesn't deserve you, Jace. You know that. I sat on the edge of the bed, pulling on my jeans. That doesn't make what I did right. Bethany sat up, sheet clutched around her. Don't turn this into a confession. Last night, it was real. Maybe more real than whatever cage you're about to walk back into. I looked at her then really looked. She wasn't pleading. She wasn't trying to chain me. She was just telling me the truth. That cut deeper than anything Shiloh or her parents had said. I left without another word, the slam of her door echoing like a gunshot. By the time I got back to my apartment, the prenup folder sat on my counter like a landmine I couldn't ignore. I hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, and still my brain ran war games on repeat. Reed and Fiona thought they'd cornered me. Shiloh thought I'd fold. But they'd all forgotten one thing. I wasn't just a pilot. I'd learned how to fight from the ground up. I called Franklin Kerr. The man answered like he hadn't slept since the Cold War. Monroe. It's Jace. I need a meeting. Urgent. What time? Now. Bring the papers. Franklin Kerr's office sat high over the city, leather chairs, shelves lined with law books that smelled of dust and intimidation. The man himself looked carved out of granite, 70-something, silver hair combed back, eyes sharper than any colonel I'd ever saluted. He stood as I came in, shook my hand with a grip that said he still had fight left. Your grandfather would have told me weeks ago if he were alive. He always planned ahead. You're just like him. Wish I was half the man he was, I muttered, dropping the folder on his desk. Franklin adjusted his glasses, flipping pages with the disgust of a surgeon finding rot. This isn't a prenup. It's a ransom note. Tell me something I don't know. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. Do you want out? Or do you want to fight? I clenched my jaw. Shiloh's face flashed in my mind, then Bethany's, then Reed's smug grin. I want to fight. Good, he said simply. Then we don't beg. We counter-strike. He pulled a legal pad close, scribbling notes. First step, your assets. Current net worth. I hesitated. For years I'd kept that part of me hidden. Flying under the radar, just another soldier. Not the grandson of a man who'd built an airline empire, not the officer who'd turned investments into a quiet fortune. About 9 million, I said finally. Franklin didn't even blink. Break it down. 6 from my grandfather's estate. 3 from my aerospace startup and other investments. He looked up. Do they know? No. A slow smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Then it'll be a beautiful day when they find out. He started drafting language. Fair division, protections for my intellectual property, airtight clauses that would cut the Hensons off at the knees. I watched, the steady scratch of his pen like the hum of an engine before takeoff. Captain, Franklin said without looking up, this family tried to ambush you. They underestimated you. Now you'll remind them you don't fly without countermeasures. I leaned back, the guilt from the night before still gnawing, but for the first time since Reed slid that prenup across the desk, I felt something else. Power. That night, Paige called. You see Franklin? Yeah. And? He's rewriting the war plan. Good. She paused, voice softening. You sound different. Different how? Like Jace Monroe. Not the guy Shiloh's family tried to neuter. I smiled into the phone. Thanks, sis. Just promise me one thing. What's that? Don't sign your soul away. I don't care if she's the last woman on earth. I closed my eyes. For a second, Bethany's face flickered behind them. I shoved it away. Promise. The knock on my apartment door came before sunrise. I hadn't even changed out of yesterday's clothes. The prenup folder was still open on the counter, Franklin's counterdraft beside it like a sword waiting to be drawn. The knocking came again, harder this time. Jace. Shiloh's voice. I scrubbed a hand down my face, jaw stiff. When I opened the door, she stormed past me like she owned the place. Hair still perfect, perfume sharp enough to sting. You ignored my calls all night, she snapped, heels clicking on my hardwood. Yeah. I was busy. Busy? She whirled on me, eyes narrowed. Busy with what? Sulking? Drinking? I closed the door slowly, leaning against it. Busy talking to Franklin Kerr. That shut her up. Her lips parted like I'd slapped her. You went to Franklin? Damn right I did. Somebody's gotta fight for me since my fiancé won't. Her cheeks flushed, voice dropping low. You're being unfair. Unfair. I laughed bitterly. Unfair is dropping a contract in my lap like I'm some beggar knocking at the gates. Her arms crossed, defensive. This is how families like mine protect themselves. You keep saying that, I shot back. But what about me? Who protects me? She shook her head, pacing now, fingers clawing through her hair. God, Jace, you don't get it. My parents. I don't give a damn about your parents, I cut her off. I'm supposed to be marrying you. Not them. Her eyes glistened, but she wouldn't let the tears fall. You think this is easy for me? I'm stuck between the man I love and the family that raised me. No, I said flatly. You're choosing. And you've chosen them every single time. Her voice cracked. That's not fair. Then tell me you'll stand with me. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the expensive perfume on her collar. Tell me you'll tell your parents to shove this prenup and that we'll do it my way. Fair. Equal. Her mouth trembled. Then she looked away. I can't. Something hollow opened up inside me. You can't or you won't? I can't fight them, Jace. They'll cut me off. They'll. Then maybe they should have raised a daughter who could stand on her own 2 feet. Her hand flew before I could stop it. The slap cracked across my cheek. We both froze, the sound hanging in the room like gunfire. She gasped, hand over her mouth. Jace, I stared at her, the sting burning but my voice ice cold. You just gave me all the answer I need. Her eyes filled now, spilling over. Don't say that. Don't. I grabbed the folder, slapped Franklin's version of the prenup on top of hers. You wanted a contract? Fine. Tonight, you and your parents will see the terms. My terms. And if they don't like it. I shoved it into her chest. Then we're done. She clutched it, trembling. Please don't do this. Shiloh, I said, my voice breaking for the first time. I already did. I opened the door. She stood there, shaking, trying to hold back sobs. I love you, she whispered. I closed my eyes. Then prove it. She didn't move. Didn't say anything. Just walked out, heels echoing down the hall. When the door clicked shut behind her, I leaned my forehead against it, eyes squeezed tight. And all I could see was Bethany's hand brushing my wrist at the bar. Lakeview was the kind of place where the staff could watch a house fire through glass and still pour water without a ripple. Private room, mahogany table, view of the lake, a door that muffled voices like a confessional. I booked it for 6. I arrived at 5:30 and stood looking at the water until my pulse settled. Shiloh walked in at 5:58, eyes swollen but makeup perfect. You look tired, she said. War plan days do that. Don't make tonight a war. Then don't make me the enemy. We took our seats in silence. 2 minutes later the door opened again and Reed and Fiona Hensons swept in like a cold front, all steel and scent and power that had never met a bill it couldn't pay. Captain Monroe, Reed said, not offering a hand. Let's be efficient. Fiona's smile had edges. Such a lovely venue. Shame we needed to use it for paperwork. Paperwork, I said, is why we're here. I set 2 folders on the table. One blue, his. One black, mine. Reed reached for the blue. I slid the black toward him instead. We'll start with this one, I said. He paused. We already provided the agreement. And I brought it. I tapped the blue, as a reference in case anyone forgets what coercion looks like. Fiona's eyes narrowed. Careful. Let's not pretend we're here for tea, I said. You gave me a drop-dead deadline like I was some contractor bidding your patio. I'm here to tell you how this actually goes. Reed's jaw twitched. Jace, I'm sure emotions are high, but... High is a low word for what you pulled. I pushed the black folder in front of him. Open it. He didn't move. We have counsel. Mine wrote this, I said. Franklin Kerr. You know the name. I watched the flicker cross his face. He knew it. Fiona folded her hands. What is this then? A prenup, I said evenly. That isn't a ransom note. Reed shot a look at Shiloh. You brought him into this? Shiloh's voice was small. He's my fiancé, Dad. Open it, I repeated. Reed flipped the cover. His eyes skimmed, quick, precise. Then slower. Fiona leaned, reading over his shoulder. The room got quieter, like the air itself was listening. Balanced property division, I said, steady. Clear separation of premarital assets. No claim on either party's intellectual property, present or future. Fair spousal support formulas if it ever came to that. Independent counsel on both sides. No pressure. No deadlines. No ambushes. Reed's mouth thinned. Unusual. Fair, I corrected. Fiona didn't look up. Protects you quite nicely, Captain. Protects us both, I said. Funny how that feels like an attack only when it stops being one-sided. Reed shut the folder. We'll have our attorneys review and revert. You have until tomorrow at 3, I said. And anything you propose can't touch the balance. Fiona laughed once, low and elegant. You don't set our timelines. You set one for me, I said, voice flat. I'm returning the favor. Reed smoothed his tie. Let's address the elephant. You are marrying into a family with substantial assets and responsibilities. This agreement, ours, exists to protect that legacy. Your counterproposal is performative. I slid a second thin envelope across the table. Then let's make sure we're performing with the right script. He didn't take it. Open it, I said. He didn't move. Fiona reached, annoyed, and slipped the documents free. Portfolio statements. Valuations. A letter from Kerr's office verifying assets. When she saw the first number, her pupils tightened like a camera aperture. Reed finally looked. Roughly 6 in inheritance diversified, I said. Another 3 in private holdings and an aerospace startup valuation. Call it 9, give or take market mood. Silence pressed on the room like altitude. Fiona found her voice first. That's unlikely. Your skepticism is adorable, I said. But I didn't come to ask permission. Reed turned to Paige, slower now. Your grandfather built airplanes, then an airline, then a quiet fortune, I said. None of which I've ever needed to flash to eat dinner. You made the mistake of assuming service equals poverty and couture equals class. Fiona's cheeks colored. We don't. You do, I said. You did. And you wrote a contract like I was some stray you needed to neuter before you let me in the house. Shiloh put a hand on the table, voice trembling. Jace, please. No, I said without looking at her. They need to hear this clean. Reed set the envelope down, recalculating me like a new piece of ordnance on a radar screen. If these numbers are accurate. They are. Then the landscape changes. The landscape always looked like this, I said. You just refused to take off your sunglasses. Fiona sat back, studying me with a new animal in her eyes. Respect? Wariness? Tasted like both. Why keep it secret? She asked, not gently, not kind, but honest. Because I wanted your daughter to love the pilot, not the portfolio, I said. Because rooms like this change when money walks in first. Shiloh's fingers curled. You could have told me. You could have told me your parents were going to treat me like a pickpocket, I said, finally turning to her. Here we are. Reed clasped his hands. We can discuss tone later. The bottom line is your assets are your concern. Our concern is our daughter and the family trust. And my concern, I said, is a marriage that doesn't start with a man being told to heal. Strong words, Reed said. Soft compared to the ones I'm not saying. Fiona inhaled. What do you want? 3 things, I said, ticking them off with a finger. 1. You withdraw the ultimatum and acknowledge it was coercive. 2. We use my agreement as the base, your counsel can suggest language tweaks, not substantive changes. 3. You understand our marriage isn't your boardroom. Decisions about us are made by us. Reed's brow rose. You're dictating terms to me. I'm setting boundaries, I said. For your daughter. For me. For whatever is left of respect at this table. Shiloh whispered, Dad. Fiona looked at her, then at me. And if we refuse? I looked out at the black water, the city lights smeared like oil. Then I said it. Then I cancel the wedding myself. Shiloh flinched like I'd cut her. Jace, don't. You were willing to cancel it to get me to sign, I said, quiet but lethal. This is the same coin flipped to the other side. The difference is I'm doing it to protect us, not a crest on a letterhead. Reed steepled his fingers, the power game grinding into a new gear. You're asking us to surrender leverage. I'm asking you to grow up, I said. Your daughter isn't an asset class. She's a person. And if you want any part of the life we build, you meet us as equals. Fiona's mouth pressed thin. You may be surprised to learn equality is expensive. I can afford it. We sat in that, for statues pretending not to be human. Reed finally exhaled. We'll review by 3. Good. I slid my phone across the table. Speaker. He frowned. What is this? Your chance to say it out loud. I hit the button. Franklin, you there? Kerr's voice filled the room, cool as a deadbolt. On. Mr. Henson, I said, for clarity, do you agree to withdraw last night's ultimatum while counsel reviews today's counterproposal? Reed glanced at Fiona, then at Shiloh. A full second ticked by. Yes, he said. Fiona's head snapped. Reed. He didn't look at her. We'll review without conditions. Thank you, Kerr said dryly. We'll expect red lines limited to wording. The line clicked off. I pocketed the phone. Fiona's eyes were knives. You ambushed us. You invented the play, I said. I just flew it better. Shiloh reached for my hand. I didn't let her have it. Her face broke anyway. Jace, she whispered, please don't punish me for my parents. Stand up to them, I said. Just once. Then we'll talk about punishment. She swallowed. I'm trying. Trying is calling them last night and saying no. Trying is not slapping me when I asked you to. Her cheeks flared red. Reed's eyes flicked to her, thundercloud forming. Enough, she snapped, anger finally breaking through. You want me to cut off my family to prove I love you? I want you to choose us when it counts, I said. You chose them. Repeatedly. She slammed her palm on the table. I am here, aren't I? You're here because I dragged this meeting into neutral ground and brought a bigger lawyer. Silence. Then Fiona, softly, you slept at your apartment last night. The room tilted. I looked at her, then at Shiloh. She was staring at me like she'd just seen smoke under a door. Where else would I have slept? I said. Fiona's smile was cat-thin. Men in pain don't tend to sleep well. Or alone. Mom, Shiloh hissed. I kept my face stone. Inside, something twisted. Bethany's laugh, the way the city light had cut across her floor. Guilt tasted like copper. I let it sit on my tongue and said nothing. Reed closed my folder with 2 fingers. 3 p.m. We'll send revisions to Kerr. If this remains balanced, we'll sign. And the apology? I asked. He stared at me, then at his daughter. Shiloh, he said, we shouldn't have handled it that way. That was as far as he could go without choking. It would do. Fiona stood, that social smile back in place like a mask pressed to wet skin. Congratulations, Captain Monroe. On your liquidity. Congratulations on discovering your future son-in-law isn't a charity case, I said. She slid her bag onto her shoulder. We'll see you tomorrow. They left a breeze of cold perfume. The door clicked. The room exhaled. Shiloh and I sat staring at the empty chairs. She spoke first, voice raw. Did you sleep alone? The question landed between us like shrapnel. I looked at the lake. No. The sound she made wasn't a word. It was pain given shape. With who? She asked, barely audible. Does it matter? It does to me, she said, eyes shining, angry, devastated. It matters to me. I swallowed gravel. Bethany Costa. Her knuckles went white. The defense analyst? The brunette from the gala? Yes. She stood so fast the chair scraped. You wrecked us. You wrecked us first, I said, too fast, too bitter. You handed me over to your parents and called it love. That's not the same and you know it. You're right, I said. One was a betrayal of backbone. The other was a betrayal of body. They both mean we're not who we said we were. She slapped tears off her cheeks like they offended her. I hate you for telling the truth like that. I hate me for having it to tell. We stared at each other across a battlefield we'd both mined. Finally she whispered, if they sign tomorrow, do we still get married? I let the question hang until it ached. If they sign tomorrow, we still have to decide if we can. She closed her eyes. Nodded once. 3 p.m. 3 p.m. She left without looking back. I stayed until the lake went black and the glass made a ghost of me. When I finally stood, my phone buzzed. A text from Kerr. They'll sign. Brace for theater and salvage only what you want. Another from Paige. Say the line you mean, not the line that wins. And one from an unknown number that didn't need a label. Are you okay? B. I typed nothing. I powered the phone down, slid it into my pocket, and walked into a night that smelled like rain and endings. I barely slept. The lakefront glass of that dining room kept replaying in my head, reflecting my own face back at me like a stranger. Shiloh's broken voice. Fiona's knife-edged smile. Reed's forced apology. And Bethany's text blinking at me like a flare I refused to see. By 7 a.m. I was already in Franklin Kerr's office. He poured coffee like it was motor oil, black and scalding. They'll sign, he said, no greeting. But it won't be gracious. Don't need gracious. Just need fair. Captain, he said, sliding the prenup back toward me, I've fought families like this for 40 years. They win by making you doubt yourself. Don't give them that. I nodded, staring at the stack of papers like it was a live bomb. Shiloh asked me if we still get married. What did you say? I said we'd have to decide. Franklin leaned back, studying me over the rim of his mug. And did you tell her about Costa? The name punched like turbulence. Yeah. Last night. He didn't flinch. And she looked at me like I'd crashed the plane on purpose. You did, he said calmly. She just doesn't know you were flying through flak first. I set the cup down hard. Doesn't make it right. Nothing about betrayal is clean, Franklin said. But it clarifies the battlefield. By mid-morning, Paige called. Her voice was fire and steel. Tell me you burned them to the ground last night. I didn't burn them. I forced them to look at me. And Shiloh? She looked right back. Paige exhaled, frustrated. Jace, I'll say it again, you don't kneel to cash. If she can't stand with you, she's already against you. Yeah. My throat tightened. But I still love her. Love doesn't pay for loyalty. She was quiet a beat. Bethany texted me. I froze. She what? She's worried about you. Paige's voice sharpened. Whatever the hell happened between you two, I don't want details. But don't use her as a bandage if you're bleeding out, Shiloh. I pinched my eyes shut. You think I don't know that? I think you're still deciding which war you're fighting, she said. Figure it out before it kills you. 3 p.m. sharp. Reed and Fiona swept into Franklin's office like storm clouds in designer coats. Shiloh trailed behind, pale, lips pressed so tight they looked bloodless. Franklin gestured to the conference table. Shall we? Reed opened his briefcase, slid a folder across. Our counsel reviewed. Minor edits only. Franklin scanned quickly, his eyebrows barely twitching. Language, not substance. Acceptable. I watched them, every muscle in my body tight. So we're agreed? Reed nodded once. We'll sign. Fiona's eyes burned holes through me. But don't mistake signatures for approval, Captain. You've humiliated this family. Publicly. Only because you tried to bury me privately, I shot back. Shiloh flinched at the venom in my voice. Franklin slid the papers toward me. Initial here, and sign at the bottom. The pen felt heavy. Like I was signing not just a contract but the path my life would take. My name sprawled across the page anyway. Reed signed next, brisk, clinical. Fiona's hand lingered before she scrawled hers, like she wanted to stab through the paper. Shiloh's turn came last. She hesitated, staring at me like she could still will us back to who we'd been before all this. Shiloh, Reed said sharply. She signed. The silence after was thicker than jet fuel. Fiona stood. Congratulations, Captain Monroe. You've bought yourself a seat at the table. I rose too, meeting her gaze. I didn't buy anything. I earned it. Reed closed his case. We'll see you at the rehearsal dinner. They left, the door thudding behind them. Shiloh stayed. She didn't look at Franklin. She didn't look at the papers. Just at me. Now what? She whispered. I couldn't answer. Not yet. Because my phone was buzzing in my pocket. Bethany Costa. One word on the screen. Dinner? The Drake's hallway smelled like polished wood and old money. I could hear the rehearsal band thumping through a wall somewhere, strings warming up for a party that might not happen. I stood outside our suite with the keycard in my hand and the urge to run buzzing through my bones like static. I swiped. Green light. Door clicked. Shiloh was inside, barefoot in a robe, makeup off, hair down, too intimate for how far away she felt. The city curled outside the window, Lake Michigan a black plate. You came, she said. Not relief. Observation. You texted. She nodded to the minibar. There's bourbon. I need water. She opened the fridge, handed me a bottle. I cracked it and drank until I could trust my voice. She watched me with that art curator stare, cataloging cracks. Did you tell Franklin about her? No. Good. She wrapped the robe tighter, like the word her had lowered the temperature 10 degrees. I don't need your lawyer weighing the sins. I set the bottle down. I didn't bring Franklin here. No, she said softly. You brought a detonator. Your parents brought the explosive. Her mouth curved, humorless. And you were only too happy to press the button. We faced each other across the room's expensive silence. Thick carpet, tasteful lamps, the white bed like a stage. Say what you came to say, I told her. Her chin trembled once and stopped. Do you still want to marry me? I swallowed. Do you still want to marry me? That's not an answer. It's the only honest one. She laughed, sharp and small. God, you're infuriating. You want a clean line. There isn't one. Her eyes glistened. There was. Before you slept with her. I took the hit. You're right. I crossed a line you didn't. And I handed my fiancée to my parents. I know. She flared, tired of the ledger. But infidelity is different. It is. I didn't hide from it. It's worse. She blinked, surprised. You're not going to fight that? I can only tell one truth at a time. She folded onto the edge of the bed, robe pooling. Why her? Because she saw me without trying to manage me. Because she listened. Shiloh closed her eyes. I listened. You performed listening. I hated the sentence as it left me. In rooms where it made you look good. She stood. That's cruel. It's accurate. You think I don't know what you need? She marched to the closet, pulled a garment bag forward, yanked the zipper. The wedding dress, sleek, beautiful, glimmered like a dare. I picked this with you in mind. I moved us into a condo closer to base. I planned a life around your deployments. Don't you dare say I treated you like a prop. I'm saying when it mattered, you put me behind Reed and Fiona's brand guidelines. She let the bag fall shut. I'm not a brand. Then stop acting like their PR. Silence. Then, did you sleep with her because you were done with me? I flinched. I slept with her because I felt alone and wanted to feel like a man whose choices were his. She stared. That is such a beautifully selfish sentence. I know. Do you love her? No, the word landed too fast. I don't know her to love her. But you could. It wasn't a question. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. We stood there breathing heavy like we'd sprinted in place. She moved first, stepping closer until I could see the tiny silver scar by her eyebrow, the one she got when she fell off a bike at 7. Tell me you choose me, she whispered. Tell me we burn last night and this week and we walk down that aisle tomorrow stronger. I can't say that yet. Her eyes glossed. Then why are you here? Because I won't let your parents decide what happens in this room. Newsflash, she said, voice breaking, they already did. They wrote the first draft of our marriage and you let Bethany edit the second. I exhaled. That's fair. She blinked. Do you know how insane it is to hear you say that? Probably the sanest thing I've said all week. A beat. Then she squared her shoulders like a soldier. Okay, let's try this the adult way. She took a breath, counted something invisible in the air with her fingers. Do you regret sleeping with her? Yes. Do you wish you hadn't? Yes. Will you see her again? I hesitated. She saw it. She stepped back like I'd shoved her. Jesus, Jace. I don't plan to, I said. But I'm not going to promise something just to calm you. I don't want calming, she snapped. I want a partner who doesn't burn down the house to prove it's his. I held her stare. Then be the partner who doesn't hand the keys to her parents. She paced to the window, palms pressed to the glass like she wanted to push the lake away. Do you think I'm weak? I think you're trained. I came up beside her. You grew up in a world where compliance is love. Where a good daughter keeps the peace. Her reflection wavered next to mine. And you grew up in a world where defiance is honor. Sometimes. She turned, sudden. We're not compatible, are we? We could be, I said. If we choose each other over what built us. She searched my face looking for the lie I wasn't telling. Do you want me to cut them off? I want you to stop letting them write your lines. She moved past me, grabbed her phone from the nightstand, typed, hovered, set it down without sending. I could text my mother right now. Tell her we're postponing. That's not the only choice. What is? We postpone together. We tell everyone we need a month. We do counseling. We sit with what we did and didn't do. We decide without audience. I forced myself to say the next part, or we call it off. Play. No spectacle. No revenge. Shiloh's throat worked. You're offering me kindness and execution in the same breath. I'm offering you truth before we lie to 100 people in a ballroom. She stared at me a long time. Then she asked the only question that mattered. If we postpone, do you stop seeing her? Yes. Do you tell her? Yes. Do you tell your sister? She already knows enough. Her mouth twitched almost into a smile. Paige will murder you with a spoon. She'll make it quick. The almost smile died. If we postpone, my parents will go nuclear. Let them. You say that like fallout doesn't stick. I've lived in worse fallout. She sank onto the edge of the bed again, small now. I hate that I still want you. I hate that I made it harder to deserve. We sat in the sound of the city, a siren far off, tires hissing on wet street, the faint hum of 1,000 dinners we weren't at. Her phone lit on the nightstand. Mom, rehearsal walkthrough moved to 7:30. Where the blue? Another text snapped in right after. Dad, we expect Grace tonight. No scenes. The words glowed like a threat. She picked it up, stared, then tossed it back down like it burned. They don't stop. They won't. You have to. She inhaled until her shoulders shook. Then she grabbed the phone again, typed fast, and this time hit send. She showed me the screen. We're postponing tomorrow. Do not contact Jace. We'll update you after we make decisions privately. Shiloh. My heart thudded twice, then steadied. You sure? No, she wiped at her cheek. But I want to be. I nodded. I'll call the hotel. Not yet. She looked up. One more answer. Okay. If we postpone, are you mine? Her eyes didn't flinch. No Bethany. No rebounds. No heroic self-pity. Just the ugly work. Yes, I said. If you're mine. No parents. No ultimatums. No ghostwriting our vows. She swallowed and for the first time all week stepped into me and stayed. Her head tucked under my chin. The kind of quiet where memory tries to set a hook. I hate you, she whispered into my chest, for making me brave. I hate me for needing you to be. We stood like that until the clock on the mantel clicked past 6. She pulled back, wiped her face, tied her robe like armor. What about the rehearsal? She asked. We go, I said. We keep it civil. We don't announce anything until morning. Tonight is for the people who love us who didn't earn this circus. And my parents? We give them nothing. She nodded, a general accepting a plan she didn't choose but could execute. Okay. I picked up my phone. The screen lit with a missed call from an unsaved number and a voicemail icon. I didn't press play. Shiloh noticed. Her? Yeah. You're not curious? I am. I slid the phone into my pocket. But curiosity is how I wrecked us. She blinked hard, set her shoulders. Then let's try not being curious for one night. I reached for the door. She caught my wrist. Jace. Yeah. If we don't make it, promise me you'll still land. I held her hand. I always land. She let go. We stepped into the hallway, two people who had finally stopped lying to each other, walking toward a rehearsal for a wedding that might never happen. And for the first time, it felt like a choice we were making, not a script we were trapped in. The banquet hall at the Henson estate gleamed like something out of a senator's dream. Chandeliers dripping crystals, tables dressed in white linen and gold trim, and a string quartet humming near the bar. 100 eyes flicked toward me the second I walked in, like I'd smuggled a bomb under my jacket. Shiloh slid in beside me, her hand light on my arm. From a distance we were the perfect couple. Up close, the tremor in her touch betrayed the war under her skin. Reed clinked his glass, standing tall at the center table. Family, friends, tonight we honor the joining of two legacies, our daughter Shiloh and Captain Jace Monroe. His smile had all the warmth of a frozen lake. A union of love, loyalty, and future. I nearly laughed out loud. Loyalty. Fiona took her cue, her voice velvet-wrapped steel. We are proud to welcome Jace into our family. Despite recent challenges. Her eyes cut toward me, lingering the way a hawk watches prey twitch in the grass. We stand firm that true commitment is tested not in ease but in fire. The crowd murmured politely. I raised my glass, deadpan. Then we're already veterans. A ripple of nervous laughter moved through the room. Fiona's smile didn't waver, but her jaw tightened. Paige stormed in fashionably late, her heels clicking like gunfire. She kissed my cheek, her eyes sharp. You ready for this circus? Born ready, I muttered. Then I froze. Bethany Costa had walked in. Alone. Dressed in black silk that caught the light like a secret. She wasn't on the guest list. I knew that because I'd checked. Jesus Christ, I whispered. Paige smirked. Well, this just got interesting. Shiloh spotted her too. Her fingers dug into my arm, nails biting through fabric. What the hell is she doing here? She hissed. I didn't invite her. Then why does she look at you like she owns you? Bethany's gaze had already found mine across the room. Come. Certain. Like she knew exactly what she was doing. The first course came. I pushed food around my plate, aware of Fiona whispering to Reed, aware of Shiloh's forced smile, aware of Bethany sipping her wine like she had all the time in the world. Finally, Fiona rose again. If I may, a toast. To resilience. To honor. To families who stand united. Bethany's voice cut through like a blade. Funny. From where I'm sitting, this doesn't look united at all. The room gasped. Reed bristled. Excuse me, miss, who exactly are you? Bethany didn't blink. Someone who knows your future son-in-law better than you want to admit. Silence fell heavy. My pulse slammed in my ears. Shiloh shot up, trembling. You bitch. Get out. Bethany's smile curved, not cruel, just inevitable. Maybe I should. But not before he tells you the truth. 100 faces turned to me. Jace? Shiloh's voice cracked. What truth? The chandelier's light felt like a spotlight, pinning me down. My chest burned. I stood, glass in hand, and finally said it. The night after your parents tried to humiliate me at their table, Bethany and we made a mistake. The hall erupted, gasps, whispers, chairs scraping back. Shiloh's glass shattered on the floor. Tears filled her eyes, fury right behind them. In my house. In my bed. No, I said quickly. Never your bed. But yes, it happened. Fiona's hand flew to her mouth in mock horror. Reed slammed his fist on the table. Paige stood up like she was ready to brawl with anyone who came at me. Bethany didn't flinch. She only looked at me, steady as if daring me to tell more. Shiloh shook her head, voice breaking. You ruined us. I stepped toward her. No. Your parents ruined us. You let them. I faltered. I just fell. She slapped me so hard my head turned. The room gasped again. Fiona's voice cut sharp. This wedding is over. But then from the end of the table, Franklin Kerr's voice rose smooth and low. On the contrary, Mrs. Henson. The contract is signed. Which means the decision is no longer yours. All eyes snapped to him. And suddenly the meltdown turned into open war. Shiloh bolted from the banquet hall like she couldn't breathe, her heels clicking across marble, then crunching on the gravel path of the estate gardens. I followed, my chest pounding, the murmurs from the hall still echoing like artillery fire behind us. Shiloh, wait. I called. She whirled under the glow of a stone lantern, her face streaked with tears, her eyes blazing. Don't you dare say my name like you still own it. Damn it, I'm trying to explain. There is nothing to explain, Jace. Her voice cracked in the night air. You slept with her. You betrayed me. And you did it when I was fighting my parents to defend you. I dragged a hand through my hair, pacing like a caged animal. I was drowning, Shiloh. Your parents cornered me, stripped me down in front of everyone, made me feel like dirt under their shoes. You sat there. You let them do it. Her lips trembled. So you decided to punish me by running to her? It wasn't punishment, I snapped, voice raw. It was weakness. A mistake. But I swear to you, it meant nothing compared to what I feel for you. Shiloh staggered back, clutching her stomach like I'd punched her. Do you hear yourself? Meant nothing? You think that makes it better? Every time you look at me, I'll see her. Silence fell between us, heavy as smoke. Crickets hummed somewhere in the hedges. I stepped closer. Shiloh, I love you. I want you. But if you keep letting them, your parents, decide our future, we'll never make it. They'll crush us before we even take vows. Her jaw clenched, torn between rage and heartbreak. You already crushed us, Jace. Not them. You. She turned, storming deeper into the garden, leaving me standing under the lantern glow with nothing but the echo of my own confession. When I walked back into the hall, it was chaos. Voices raised, glasses overturned, the string quartet awkwardly silent with their bows midair. Reed stood at the head of the table, his fists slamming down again and again. This marriage is finished. Reed barked. I will not have my daughter tied to a man who disgraces her and this family name. Paige cut through the noise like a blade. Oh, please. Don't act like you ever wanted this marriage for love. You wanted a trophy son-in-law. A uniform to parade around at your fundraisers. Gasps rippled across the guests. Reed's face turned purple. Fiona raised her chin. Paige, you are out of line. No, you are, Paige shot back, her voice sharp enough to silence half the room. You've been poisoning Shiloh against him since day one. And now you're circling like vultures, pretending this scandal is proof you were right. Franklin Kerr, calm as a surgeon, rose from his chair. His measured voice carried weight. Mrs. Henson, Mr. Henson. While you posture, let me remind you, this union is not merely romantic. Legal documents have already been executed. Dissolution will come at a cost. A very public one. Fiona's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening us, Mr. Kerr? Franklin smiled faintly. Not threatening. Informing. If you drag Captain Monroe's name through the mud will inevitably splash back. Perhaps on the contracts. Perhaps on campaign donors. Perhaps on business deals that cannot afford scandal. Reed's hand shook around his wine glass. You think you can hold us hostage with paperwork? Paige laughed, cruel and clear. Funny coming from you. Isn't that what you've been doing to Shiloh her whole life? The room turned electric. Allies shifted. Guests whispered. Some of Reed's supposed supporters leaned back, uncomfortable. I stood silent, fists clenched, watching the empire crack. Fiona hissed, this family will bury you. Franklin tilted his head. You'd have to survive the trial first. Reed slammed his chair back, veins bulging. Get out of my house, all of you. This charade ends tonight. But Paige moved beside me, her hand steady on my arm. No, Reed. It's just beginning. The hall exploded again, half the guests rising, half leaning in for the drama like it was theater. And in the eye of the storm, I caught Bethany's calm, dark gaze from the corner of the room, her wine glass poised. She didn't need to say a word. She'd lit the match. The Henson estate had fallen into uneasy silence by midnight. The hall still smelled of spilled wine and bitterness, the arguments echoing in the bones of the house. I sat slumped in one of the side lounges, tie loosened, jaw aching from clenching too long. The door creaked and Paige slipped in, heels dangling from one hand, her hair falling loose around her face. She looked more like a warrior than a bridesmaid. Behind her, Franklin Kerr entered, jacket off, sleeves rolled, carrying a half-empty decanter. He set it down with a sharp clink. "Congratulations," Franklin muttered. "You've officially triggered the Henson nuclear option. The fallout will be biblical." Paige dropped into the chair opposite me, eyes blazing. "Good. They needed a war. I'm sick of watching them choke Shiloh into their puppet." I rubbed my temples. "And what about me?" She can barely look at me. "Tonight," she said, "I crushed us." Paige leaned forward, fire in her voice. "You made a mistake. But my sister? She still loves you, Jace." I saw it in her eyes before she ran out. That's why she's so wrecked. If she didn't care, she'd be cold. Franklin poured himself a glass, took a measured sip. "Love or not, Reed and Fiona will come for blood tomorrow. If the wedding goes forward, they'll drag you through the dirt at the altar itself if it means regaining control." I looked between them, voice low. "So what do we do? Sit there and take it?" Paige shook her head. "No. We take control back." Franklin nodded. "Exactly. We make tomorrow their reckoning, not yours." I frowned. "How?" Franklin leaned forward, his voice sharp as steel. "Reed has been hiding financial dealings. Donations funneled through shell accounts, favors exchanged. I've seen enough to know that if pressed, it won't hold up to scrutiny. And Fiona, her public charity? Built on half-truths." Paige's mouth twisted into a grin. "So we drag their skeletons into the daylight, before they bury yours." I hesitated, stomach churning. "That's nuclear too. Shiloh, she'll hate me if I burn her parents to the ground." Franklin's eyes bored into mine. "She already hates you for the night with Bethany. At least this way you give her freedom from them." Paige's voice softened just slightly. "You want her back? Prove you're worth her. Prove you'll fight, not just for her but against the cage they've built around her." The silence was thick, broken only by the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. I finally exhaled. "Then tomorrow if it burns, we let it burn." Paige raised her empty glass. "To fire then." Franklin clinked his crystal against the wood table. "To fire." And for the first time all night I felt like I wasn't alone. The chapel smelled of lilies and old wood, sunlight pouring through stained glass like shards of judgment. Guests filled the pews, the whispers louder than the hymns. I stood at the altar, uniform pressed, but my chest felt like it carried 100 pounds of lead. Every second stretched as Shiloh entered, radiant and white but pale beneath it, her arm linked with Reed's like a prisoner escorted by her warden. Her eyes met mine for only a flicker, storm clouds hidden under her veil. The officiant began. Words blurred. My pulse roared. Then Fiona rose, interrupting, her voice sharp as a knife. "Before vows are exchanged, this congregation should know the truth about the man standing at the altar." Gasps rippled. Reed swelled with satisfaction, stepping forward like he'd orchestrated the whole theater. "This man disgraced my daughter. Slept with another woman, days before his wedding. Do you call that a husband? A leader? A man?" The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Guests whispered. Shiloh froze, staring at me like she might collapse. Before the officiant could intervene, Paige leapt up, her voice cutting through the noise. "Funny. You want to talk about disgrace? Let's talk about Daddy's offshore accounts. Let's talk about Mommy's charity that lines her private trust." The guests gasped louder. Franklin strode forward, documents in hand. "These aren't rumors. These are records. I have every wire transfer, every signature. You want scandal? Let's have it in full." Reed went red, veins bulging, Fiona hissing like a cornered snake. The chapel turned to chaos, guests shouting, reporters scribbling, half the room filming. I stepped forward, locking eyes with Shiloh. My voice shook but carried. "Yes, I made a mistake. One night. I won't hide it. But I never stopped loving you, Shiloh. And I will never, never, let your parents use you like currency again." Shiloh's breath hitched, veil trembling. Reed grabbed her wrist, pulling her back. "You're coming with us. This farce ends now." She jerked her arm free, voice breaking for the first time. "No, Dad. You end now." The room fell silent. Fiona reached for her, but Shiloh stepped back, eyes wet, shoulders trembling. "I've lived my whole life under your control. Today was supposed to be about me. About us. But all you care about is power. So I'm done. I'm done being your puppet. She turned to me broken but fierce. And you crushed me, Jace. But at least you were honest about it. At least you didn't hide behind a charity gala. My chest tightened, waiting for her judgment. Shiloh closed her eyes, voice cracking. This wedding is over. The congregation gasped. Reed shouted. Fiona nearly collapsed. Paige grinned like a wolf. And me? I stood at the altar, numb as the woman I loved dropped her bouquet and walked out of the chapel alone. The ruins of everything lay in her wake. The wedding made headlines for all the wrong reasons. By nightfall, the Henson name was no longer a fortress. It was a battlefield. News outlets replayed the footage of Paige's accusations, Franklin's documents, and Shiloh's public defiance on every screen. Dynasty crumbles at the altar, one headline read. Hensons exposed, said another. Reed resigned from the board within a week, forced out by a coalition of shareholders who no longer trusted him with a dime. Fiona tried to stage a press conference, but the questions turned into a firing squad. Within days, her charity collapsed, sponsors pulling funding, the facade of benevolence shattered. They became pariahs in their own empire, whispers replacing applause, doors that once opened wide now slamming shut. I spent those days moving like a ghost. My career with the department held steady, but my name was mud in society pages. Every headline attached cheater to my face. It stung, but worse was the silence from Shiloh. I left messages. She never answered. Bethany did. It happened on a quiet evening at a cafe months later. She walked in, softer than the storm she'd once been. No grand entrance, no smug smile. Just Bethany, eyes apologetic. I didn't come to cause more damage, she said, sitting across from me. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I was part of the wreckage too. For a moment, I hated her all over again, hated how she'd been the spark that ignited it all. But then I saw the tremor in her hands, the regret etched into her face. We were both bruised by that night, both paying for it still. We talked for hours, not lovers, not enemies, just two people untangling a knot they'd tied around themselves. There was no rekindling. But there was release. And maybe that was enough. As for Shiloh, she vanished from the city. No press trail, no appearances. Paige kept her secret and Franklin deflected questions. Then, almost a year later, word surfaced. A photo in a travel blog. Shiloh standing in a coastal town in Spain, hair loose, paintbrush in hand, colors splashed across a canvas. The caption read, Local artist's first gallery showing opens this weekend. She wasn't the Hensons puppet anymore. She wasn't my fiancée either. She was simply Shiloh. And for the first time she looked free. The night I saw that photo, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, sitting alone in my apartment. The city hummed outside, uncaring. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just sat with the knowledge that sometimes love doesn't survive the war, but the person does. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only kind of victory we get.